Welcome to another edition of In Pit Lane, whether you're watching us live on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, 9 o'clock Tuesday nights, or whatever time that is, wherever the hell you are around the world, or if you're watching us on Channel 31, Wednesday nights at 9:30. This is our penultimate show on Channel 31. Yes, next week it's the end of an era after 20 years on broadcast television, 16 of them on Channel 31. Next week is our final show on free-to-air television. So make sure you're watching then. Who knows? Anything could happen. We have no idea. We're not going to bother, actually. We're just going to... There will be fairy bread, there will be raspberry cordial, there will be streamers. What more can you ask for? Now, coming up this weekend down at Phillip Island, a part of our program for so many years has been the annual Island Magic meeting down at Phillip Island. It's we dubbed it Schoolies for Petrol Heads. It's the annual end of year party for the Victorian motor racing scene. This year, they're really throwing a party. 125 improved production cars for the Improved Production Nationals. Joining us a little bit later on in the program, our guest will be from the Improved Production Racing Association, Michael Cruse. Also, we've got some great live music coming up for you a little bit later on, and of course all the international news, but there's been a lot happening locally. Let's find out all about it. This is the In Pit Lane, no, not the International Wrap, it's the In Pit Lane News. Another 20 years we'll have this absolutely down pat, don't you worry about that. Well, there's certainly nothing wrong with the racing surface out at Calder Park drag strip, with 4 new 1,000-foot national records set at the Roe Memorial Superstock Classic last Saturday. Daniel Camilleri set a new speed mark for DDGA, reaching 161.61 miles per hour in round 1 to defeat Mark Newman. The previous record was only 156 miles per hour. Les Hines set a new elapsed time record for BMP with a 0.38 second pass against Cameron Ambessi. And last week's guest on In Pit Lane, Darren Parker, reset both the speed and ET for his class with a pass of 6.199 seconds in the semi-final, with a final round speed record of 169.8 miles per hour. But despite the impressive numbers, Parker had to watch on as the Roe Memorial Trophy headed west to Adelaide. Camaro driver Tom Dimitropoulos has taken out the Roe Memorial Superstock Classic at Calder Park Raceway. The South Australian top qualified and carried his form all the way through to the winner's circle, defeating last week's guest on In Pit Lane, Darren Parker, in the final. Chris Gerds in his glorious Kingswood won in the Supercharged Outlaws division to take his first win since 2005. Gerds overcame the handicap start to overhaul Jason Kelly to take the victory. Craig Baker ended his trophy drought on the national stage with his first modified championship event win since 2013. Baker defeated Jess Turner with an 8.55 pass and an 8.47 dial-in to take the win. Top sportsman went to Paul Russo, who picked up his third Andra Christmas tree in the past 12 months with a win over Stuart McBain. Four-time defending Super Sedan champion John Kapiris picked up his first event win of the season after his final round opponent struck trouble at the start line. And New South Wales driver Joel Burns won his second junior dragster event of the season when he defeated fellow Sydney sider Bradley Bishop. Teams prepare for the final ever Sydney street race around Homebush, controversy is growing around its replacement for 2017, the Newcastle race. Local residents and businesses are up in arms over the event, which will be run through some of the city's most expensive residential real estate. At a meeting held recently, local council officers and Supercar Australia representatives faced a hostile audience of concerned locals. Residents opposed to the race told the local Newcastle Herald that the information session contained scant detail and did little to allay their concerns. Residents are concerned about a wide range of issues, including the loss of off-street parking for up to 10 weeks, restricted access to their houses, concern over the effects on their home insurance, and the lasting impact of the track on the area's heritage character. There's also growing anger over the cost to ratepayers, with the Herald claiming council has contributed around $2 million towards the event. The residents' concerns have already seen a change to the proposed circuit from the one unveiled at the event's launch. Supercar Australia's General Manager of New South Wales Events, Murray Hodges, told the meeting organisers have changed a section of the proposed track so that it no longer cuts through Pacific Park. Well, one driver no doubt looking forward to the event will be new Nissan driver Simona Di Silvestro. The Swiss driver comes to the series with plenty of street race experience, courtesy of her time in Indy cars, but she's under no illusion as to how tough her new role will be. To the surprise of no one, Swiss driver Simona Di Silvestro will race for Nissan in the 2017 Australian Supercar Championship. The former IndyCar driver competed as a wildcard entry at the last two Bathurst 1000 events alongside Australian driver Renee Gracie. Di Silvestro will make her debut for Nissan at the Clipsal 500 on the streets of Adelaide in March next year, and she's fully aware of the major challenges that lie ahead.
My expectations for next year in 2017, I think it's going to be a pretty big challenge for me because, like I said before, most of my career has been open wheel, but the Nissan Altima has been feeling pretty great at Bathurst, so I'm sure the other tracks I'm going to be able to adapt to much quicker, but learning the tracks, really working with the team and all that's going to be a big challenge, but looking forward to it.
Rick Kelly, team owner of Nissan Motorsport, said the team was delighted to have a driver of Di Silvestro's experience on board for next year.
To come out today and announce Simona is very exciting for us on a multi-year agreement. We obviously had a really great experience with Simona and her team at the Bathurst 1000. She showed a fantastic amount of talent, and with her international experience as well, we think she's a real asset. Supercars as a sport is a very difficult one to get your head around. So for 2017 and Simona, it's a big learning curve, learning all the tracks and learning the car. But again, having those two races and two Bathurst 1000s under her belt, she's already taken a big step in her progress. And we're sure this year is going to be a great learning curve for her and show some great results as well.
Di Silvestro's move to supercars has been financed by the category itself in an effort to grow the sport's support base among women and to hopefully provide inspiration to the next generation of young female drivers. It's a big one for Melbourne motorsport fans, with major events happening on both sides of the city. The Geelong Revival will once again take place as the Bayside City comes alive with car shows, cruises, fashion and food, plus two major competitive events. The traditional historic Eastern Beach Sprint will be back, but this year they'll be joined by more modern cars with a brand new hill climb. That event will be the opening round of next year's Victorian Hill Climb Championship. Meanwhile, across the other side of the city, it's the annual Island Magic meeting, one of the most popular events on the local scene. This year's meeting plays host to the Australian Improved Production Nationals. A huge field of 125 cars will line up for that event alone. There's another quality field of exotic sports cars for the Victorian Tourist Trophy 1 hour endurance race. 45 cars have entered for the race, including representatives from Porsche, Audi, Corvette and Lamborghini. The 50k Plate 4 sports sedans has attracted that class's biggest field for the year. While the Phillip Island Formula Ford Trophy race this year features a round of the National Series, currently being led by Leanne Tander. They have also got packed fields in Formula Vs and the popular historic touring cars. And we'll preview the big Improved Production Nationals with our guest Michael Cruse right after this break. You're watching In Pit Lane, live on the YouTube channel and right here on Channel 31. We'll be back right after this. Now, welcome back for those people watching on YouTube at the moment. We're on a break for Channel 31. A lot of people asking what is happening for next year for In Pit Lane. We've got no fucking idea. We can't tell you. We can tell you. We can tell you some secret stuff. Some of you might have heard a little bit about this because In Pit Lane has been invited to be a part of a new thing called Drive Tribe. Drive Tribe is rather than me tell you about it, let's let another white middle-aged man with anger management problems tell you all about it.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Clarkson and I've got something in my eye. But that's not important right now. What is important is that you know all about the Grand Tour, the show that James, Richard and I are doing for Amazon Prime. Well, this isn't that. This is something else we're doing. This is Drive Tribe.
Yes, there you can see it in pit lane, coming to Drive Tribe. Drive Tribe begins on the 28th of November. Then it will be set off from there. So stay tuned, Drive Tribe. We're going to stay on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel as well. Also, I can't officially say anything at the moment, but next week on the program we've got a huge announcement of a major live streaming event coming up at the end of this year. You probably know what it is. You can probably guess by now, but I'm not allowed to say anything. I could tell you, but they'd have to kill me. So that's coming up, but yeah, we're looking forward to that. Drive Tribe, an interesting new thing that's covered by and supported by the guys from formerly Top Gear, now the Grand Tour, which has got fabulous reviews so far. Okay, so I think we're ready to come back to Channel 31, are we, Pete?
Yes.
We are. That is now. It is the right place on the where it says interview, Phil. Yeah. That is the right place on the because we're about to do the interview in
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Well, as we said, coming up this weekend down at Phillip Island, Isle of Magic, it's the annual party down there. It's a great weekend of motorsport. If you only go to one meeting a year, make sure that it's this one. Not the Grand Prix. Anybody can go to the Grand Prix. The Grand Prix is, quite frankly, boring compared with Isle of Magic. Isle of Magic is a lot of fun. And this year, big fields, as we said, in all the categories, but especially in improved production. 125 cars from all over Australia. One of those cars will be an Escort. That Escort will be driven by our guest tonight. He is Michael Cruse. Michael, welcome back to In Pit Lane.
Thanks very much, Brett.
So you will be racing this weekend?
Yes, I will. Yeah.
So tell us, most of our viewers would know what an improved production car is, but for those people who haven't seen them and who don't know, explain, perhaps using your car as an example, what is an improved production car?
Well, it can be essentially any sedan or touring car, and some cars that might look like a sports car, like a Nissan Silvia or a RX-7. And they can be modified, but the modifications are limited, which is good because that does limit the amount that you can essentially spend. And that's why we've got such big fields, because we cater for the whole range of marques of cars that are available to people that people might like, and that they're affordable with a limited budget, like amateur racers like ourselves have. So that's why it's been so competitive for so long. So.
When you say you can do things with the engine and all that, your car is an Escort, but it's not the 1600 Kent engine anymore, is it?
No, you can turbocharge the motor. You can also modify the internals, which is fairly unlimited, if you want to keep it naturally aspirated. If it's a turbocharged car, it does have to run a restrictor on the front, which means that my car is limited in its power, but it makes the field reasonably competitive right from the...
So your car is a 2 litre?
It is a 2 litre turbocharged, so it ends up being just roughly under 3.5 litres. So I compete against 3 to 4 litre cars. Yeah, so it's very good, but you can run V8s, rotary engined cars. The under 2 litre category is really popular, and they run a lot of front wheel drive cars as compared to the over 2 litres, which tend to be rear wheel drive cars. Although we've got a Magna running this weekend from South Australia, and it's remarkably fast. So basically any sedan can be turned into something that's very competitive. And for the viewers at home, Ray Hislop will be one of the favourites. That car's capable of doing 285 kilometres an hour down the straight. So, the cars are converted into proper racing cars that do times that are comparable to some of the Porsches that will be racing in the sports cars class in other categories on the weekend.
Well, I think in the case of Ray Hislop's car, at the Caltex Chase at Mount Panorama, he's actually going through the faster than V8 supercars.
That's correct. Just due to the limitations on the aero that we're allowed to run, the wings are much smaller. So he was doing just under 300 kilometres an hour, I'm told. So.
On radial tyres.
Yeah, on a
limited aero.
On a Yokohama AO50 radial tyre. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, very brave man.
Yeah, he is.
The point is, he's a very fast car. Can anybody beat him?
Well, I think they can. You've got the likes of Damien Milano in a VY Commodore. The Kevin Ledger's an ex-national champion in a WRX. He'll be really fast. Chris Brown from South Australia, the South Australian champion. He's a Toyota 86, a turbocharged car. And I think
they've always been very good, haven't they, for South Australia with improved production? Going back to and they always have really different cars.
They do. It's amazing. I guess it happens in other areas of our life nationally, but we all do things slightly differently, and certainly they prepare their cars slightly differently to us in the types of cars that they tend to race. Perhaps it's due to the track that's over there, but they're very competitive guys, and I expect them to be very fast. Mark Rudick's coming in at 808. I could keep listing the names because...
Well, that's a seriously quick car, and that's another 2-litre. A lot of people think it's a rotary. It's not a rotary. It's not a 2-litre, another 2-litre turbo.
It's an RX. It looks like an RX3 shell, but it's actually an 808, so that it can run a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, and he'll be very quick. Justin Keys has got essentially a sister car, which is the exact same specification. I expect him to be very fast as well. I think if he's not a national champion, he's been certainly top 3 in the past. I apologise if he has already won one, but I could list the names for a long time. But basically, the weekend's slightly different than the normal nationals in that we've split the under 2 litres and over 2 litres. So the under 2 litres are running for their own national championship, and I expect the guys like Graham Cox, Gavin Reynolds coming from Western Australia. We've got about 12 cars coming from Western Australia, which is a remarkable effort that they're coming so far. So it's really fantastic. And also Alan Saint driving Simon Phillips' car. He's got a A12 powered Datsun 1200, which is turbocharged, and I expect it to be right up the pointy end. So it's a terrific little car, and really the sorts of cars that our class has attracted for a long time.
And that's been the thing this year of looking back over the Victorian State Series. It hasn't been what you call a stellar year for the State Series, let's face it. Even categories like, normally strong categories like Formula V, the numbers are way down. Sports sedans have been way down. The only categories, the Hyundai XLs and you guys, you don't seem to have taken a hit at all. What does that say to every other category? What does that say to people like Cams and those sort of people?
What it says is that we've got the formula pretty right. We're not afraid to change it slightly, but the category is pretty going along pretty nicely. We're attracting more modern cars now. You know, you saw this year we had a Nathan Robinson in a BMW win the championship in a probably a 10-year-old BMW M3. So the more modern cars are coming into the field, and we continue to encourage that, and we'll continue to tinker with the rules so that we do encourage the more modern cars, but equally at the same time, cars that are the same age as mine will be as competitive as they ever were. So there's no reason why basically any car can't be competitive, and I think that's the real beauty of our category.
Now you've got racing over 2 days. I know this has been obviously a massive logistical operation to set up. I know you've got some people within the club that you want to thank who've put in a lot of hard work. Yeah,
I do. The committee is led by the president, Gary McKay, and his wife Peter. They've done an amazing amount of work. Scott Willing, who's one of our who was one of our runners, has probably sacrificed his own chances of running this weekend to make sure that the event's been great. We've got a whole bunch of the guys on the committee, David Lowe, Coxey, and David Cox, and a few others that have really put in the hard yards to make it possible. Blair Cool's another one. So fantastic effort by them.
Well, head down there on the weekend. Island Magic, always worth going to see, and this year in particular, if you love your touring cars, you're going to see a fabulous race with the Improved Production Nationals. Good luck on the weekend. Keep those wheels on. Yeah. And for now, Michael Cruse, thanks for joining us in Pit Lane.
Thanks very much, Brett. And I just wanted to say quickly before we go, thank you very much to In Pit Lane. I know you've been going for 20 years. You've supported the state categories, and none more than Improved Production. So I really thank you for your time over the 20 years. It means a lot.
Thanks a lot for that. And we're going to take a break. We'll be back with more right after this break.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Clarkson, and I've got something in my eye. But that's not important right now. What is important is that you know all about the Grand Tour, the show that James, Richard and I are doing for Amazon Prime. Well, this isn't that. This is something else we're doing. This is Drive Tribe.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Well, the end of an era in many respects last weekend as the FIA World Endurance Championship said goodbye to a number of popular competitors. Australia's Mark Webber had his final full-time professional start, and we also said goodbye to the Tequila Patron Honda team, and Rebellion left LMP1. But the biggest farewell was for Audi and their popular motorsport manager, Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich. VW also said goodbye to the World Rally Championships, and NASCAR said goodbye to Tony Stewart. But over in Macau, the attention was on the challenging street circuit as the city-state once again played host to the Macau Grand Prix. And that's where we'll kick off this week's In Pit Lane International Wrap. A superb drive by Antonio Felix da Costa has given him his second victory in the famous Macau Grand Prix. The Portuguese driver started from pole after a win in Saturday's qualifying race, but he lost the early lead to impressive young British driver Callum Ilott. Red Bull Junior Sete Kamara also had to turn in the lead until the safety car came out after only 4 laps of racing due to a crash involving Nikita Mazepin. At the restart, da Costa took the lead and hung on to take the win from a fast-finishing Felix Rosenqvist, with Kamara holding on for third place. Lawrence Vanthoor ended his Macau GT World Cup with this wild slide on his roof. The race was immediately red flagged, and despite only 2 racing laps, was somehow declared an official race, with the World Cup going to Lawrence Vanthoor. Earlier, Melbourne driver Ricky Capo brought out the first red flag after going in hard at the Fast Fisherman's Bend corner. Thankfully, Ricky was uninjured in the crash. A dream farewell for Audi as the diesel-powered prototypes finished 1-2 in the company's final World Endurance Championship round, the 6 Hours of Bahrain. Loic Duval, Oliver Jarvis and Lucas de Grassi won by just over 16 seconds ahead of the sister Audi of Marcel Fazler, Andre Lotterer and Benoit Trullier to score the emotional victory. It was also a fond farewell to Australia's own Mark Webber, who finished on the podium in his final major motor race. A 6th place was enough to give the Porsche team of Neil Yarny, Mark Lieb and Romain Demar the 2016 World Championship. A great win to the G-Drive team, who came from last on the grid to win in LMP2. Aston Martin's Nicky Thim and Marco Sorensen wrapped up the GT Drivers title with their second GTE Pro Class win of the season, while GTE AM was won by Porsche. VW have also left the sport, another victim of the Dieselgate saga, and they too went out on top with a 1-2 finish in the final round of the World Rally Championship. Andreas Mikkelsen and Andre Jaeger gave the team a worthy send-off with a win at Rally Australia. Sebastian Ogier and Julian Ingratius celebrated their 4th World Drivers' Championship with a 2nd place finish. VW also won the Manufacturers' Championship with fellow Volkswagen duo Jari-Matti Latvala and Mika Antila. Hyundai's Thierry Neville and Nicholas Gilsol claimed the final place on the podium, which helped them take 2nd in the championship. While Audi may be leaving, Mazda have shown off their new Daytona prototype for next year's IMSA North American Sports Car Championship at this year's LA Auto Show. The spectacular-looking Mazda RT24P features an updated version of the Mazda MZ2, a 2-litre turbo engine which pumps out an impressive 600 horsepower. Also making its debut at the LA Auto Show, Porsche's new GTE Challenger for 2017, the 911 RSR. The new car has improved aerodynamics and a new 4-litre normally aspirated flat-6 engine mounted in front of the rear axle. Porsche will be hoping that the radical new engine position will be the secret to being more competitive with Ford, Ferrari and Aston Martin in next year's World Endurance Championship. And it's finally over. No, not the US presidential election, although thank God that is, but the 2016 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. And the winner is Jimmy Johnson. Johnson's win in the final round at Homestead Miami Speedway saw him claim his 7th NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship, putting him alongside legends Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. Johnson took the lead in overtime with only 2 laps remaining to lead home Kyle Larson and Kevin Harvick in a Chevy 1-2-3. Harvick and Larson had led for much of the race, but there's only 1 lap that matters, and Johnson led 2 of them. And that's all the time we have this week. Hope you'll join us next week on the program for our final ever show on Channel 31, free to air. Look, I'm throwing this out here. If you've ever appeared on the program before, if you've ever worked on the program, if you've ever watched the program, if you've ever had me try and pick you up in a sleazy bar somewhere, whatever, come in next week on the show. Come into the studio. It's an open invitation. We're throwing over glancel. State di immobile valenti comprare del Franco Costa Venitotari, Northern Melbourne and Footscray. Come in to In-Bit Lane next week. But playing us out tonight is Odin Wilson of the band Grand Element, and their debut EP Contraband is out right now. Their new EP launch is on the 6th of January next year at the Whole Lotta Love Bar in Brunswick, or in Burnswick as it's written there. Never been to Burnswick. Sounds good. But right now, to take us out, this is Odin Wilson with the song Endlessness. So until we see you next week, bye-bye.
Through this haze, through my soul and body, in this place, every day I wait for you. Oh, I do. I wait for you. Oh, I do. I wait for you. I see your face down by the riverbanks. I feel your faith in the wait. I wait for you. Oh, I do. I wait for you. Oh, I do. I wait. This endlessness keeping won't leave me. It's real and it's holding me hostage until I stop feeling from days into years. Now I know, now it's clear I am sorry, but I cannot let you go. For you.